السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فقد قال تبارك وتعالى كما ورد في سورة القصص بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وابتغي فيما آتاك الله الدار الآخرة ولا تنس نصيبك من الدنيا رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Verily all praise is for Allah. We praise Him and we seek His aid and we ask for His forgiveness. And we seek refuge with Allah for the evil of ourselves and the evil of our actions. Whomsoever Allah guides, no one can misguide, and whomsoever Allah misguides, no one can guide. And I bear witness that none has a right to be worshipped except Allah alone, having no partners. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is His slave and final messenger. You know, most people fall into one of three categories, right? Either you are someone that is working a full-time job, right? 9 to 5, maybe 40 hours a week. Or you're maybe a full-time student, right? And some students nowadays will work and on the side also have a part-time job, subhanAllah. Or you may be a mother, right, who's taking care of a family, or someone who takes care of a household, right? The point is that we have worldly obligations that, quite frankly, take up a lot of our time. But then we, as Muslims, also have obligations to this deen, to Allah, right? And so the question becomes, how do we balance our worldly life with the life of ibadah and Islam? And when I say balance, I don't want you to think of the traditional balance scale where, you know, you've got the weight of two things on opposite sides, right? And somehow your goal is to get these two things to have equal weight. No. This is not the way I want you to think of balance. Think instead of a rope, right? A rope where on one side you have deen and the other side you have dunya. And then there's you in the middle, right? Almost like some of you are familiar with the game tug of war, right? And the side of dunya seems to be winning this war because you find yourself mainly on this side, right? And so the question you want to ask yourself is, what are some things that you can do to help the side of deen so that you can pull yourself more towards that side, right? And the answer to this question comes from reflecting on ayah number 77 of Surah Al-Qasas, where Allah says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وابتغي فيما آتاك الله الدار الآخرة ولا تنس نصيبك من الدنيا. And the way this translates is, but seek through that which Allah has given you, the home of the hereafter, and yet do not forget your share of this world. This was the advice from the scholars of Bani Israel to this man named Qarun. And he was one of the wealthiest men during the time of our Prophet Musa alayhi salam. And they told him that, look, whatever Allah has given you, use it to benefit yourself in the hereafter. But at the same time, don't neglect the portion you have in this world. And so really just from that, we can come to the conclusion that of course it is possible to achieve this balance between deen and dunya. But before we do anything to begin the approach to come at this balance, we have to have the right mindset. What is this mindset? I want you to think of this analogy, right? Think of someone who, let's say, is traveling to a certain destination, right? And on the way there, they have to stop somewhere because they've got a connecting flight. Let's say, for example, you were traveling to the UK, right? You're going from Detroit to London, but you have to stop in New York. You have a connecting flight that goes from New York to London. And somehow, this flight that goes from New York to London was delayed for almost an entire day. So now you are stuck in New York for, let's say, 24 hours. In this one day, you will not want to go out into the city of New York and start looking at living arrangements, right? Because you understand that you're only there for a day. You're not going to be there much longer, right? So it doesn't make sense to make any sort of permanent decision in such a small amount of time. And so, similarly, this is our life as Muslims, right? As believers, we understand and believe that we are essentially travelers that are on a journey to a much greater destination, right? And this world is like that stop in New York, right? We came from Allah. Our existence, our worldly existence, of course, started when we were born. But we also believe in the spiritual existence, and that this dates way back farther than our worldly existence. So we came from Allah, He sent us here, and of course to Him we will return. So the first step in trying to balance this idea of having deen and dunya is to have the right mindset, right? That again, as believers, we are on a mission to reach a much bigger goal. And that goal is not here in this world. Brothers and sisters, nothing in this world can fulfill or give us the satisfaction of achieving the ultimate goal of the hereafter. But the thing is, we need this world as a means to get to where we want to go in the hereafter. And we ask Allah to bless us with the glad tidings of Jannah. Allahumma ameen. Now, the reason why this is the first step is because if you go back to this tug of war analogy that I gave, we can all understand and conclude that we are, for the most part, being pulled towards the side of dunya. Right? If it's a tug of war, here's deen, here's dunya. Dunya seems to be winning the battle in the most case, for generally speaking, for most of us, right? But once we realize and remind ourselves that, our life is temporary, and that it's just a matter of time before we return to our Creator, then it'll start to give way to the side of deen. In other words, we'll be more successful in achieving this balance between deen and dunya because we'll approach it with the right framework and we remember our ultimate purpose. Now, once you have developed and established this mindset, right, you can start to think about the more tangible steps. And so the second step for having this balance between deen and dunya is to set non-negotiables, right? What are your must-haves, your must-dos? right? What are the things that you are required to do to fulfill the rights of Allah? Because again, if you have the right mindset, you'll understand that these things are what take priority, right? And on a day-to-day level, the one thing that we are absolutely obliged to do as Muslims is salah, right? 5 times a day, no questions asked. You just have to perform your salah. And subhanAllah, when you think about the fact that Allah has made praying 5 times a day fard upon us, it really makes so much sense, particularly from the perspective of someone who's trying to balance deen and dunya, right? Because for 5 times a day, Allah is forcing you to stop whatever worldly thing that you might be involved in and go back to Him, worship Him, and remember Him, right? Because, again, this is the priority. And if you approach it with the right mindset, then you'll automatically come to this conclusion, that there is no worldly thing that we can do which is greater than the worship or the ibadah of Allah. Now, of course, there are those, many of us probably, that are struggling with fulfilling our salah, right? Some of us feel like, we can't just drop whatever we're doing and actually pray 5 times a day. And for those of you who feel that way, know that this is certainly a trick of shaitan. That somehow shaitan has fooled you into thinking that you live a life that's so busy that you couldn't spare 10 minutes to fulfill your salah. And we all know that this isn't the case, because the problem in why you can't fulfill salah is not a matter of ability or time, right? It's more of a matter of priority and importance, right? The problem is you haven't made salah important enough in your life, right? It hasn't become an absolute priority. And that might be because, again, you forgot that you're a traveler in this world and that your time here is limited, and day after day, it is dwindling away. So again, that's why that first step is so crucial, right? That you have the right mindset, right? Before you do anything to do this, balancing of deen and dunya, really got to shake yourself, right? And snap yourself out of the illusion of this world. There's a hadith narrated by Abu Hurairah where the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that frequently remember the destroyer of pleasures, meaning death, right? Because once this finally hits you, then you'll start to feel like, you know what, I don't care what I've got going on, I have to fulfill my salah, right? And I'm not saying it's easy to just drop whatever you're doing and go straight to salah when the time comes in, but think about the wisdom in having salah spaced out in the way it is in terms of the time, right? It's not like Allah is telling us we have to pray 5 times a day all within the same hour. No, right? So the practical way of establishing your salah while still having to tend to your worldly life is to schedule everything around those 5 times of prayer, right? You can think of it like having an appointment, right? Like all of us today have an appointment at 6:50, and then another one at around 9 o'clock, right? And one at looks like 10:15 today is Isha. And so now what you've done is you have set the times of prayer as the foundation of your schedule. And so what happens is when you force everything to revolve around the times of salah, you will inevitably have less conflict between deen and dunya, meaning you'll have more balance, right? And this is the whole idea. This is what we're after. Now, of course, there are more things that we can do in addition to salah to achieve this balance, right? If we want a healthy balance between deen and dunya, it's not just salah. And so the third thing that we can do to help achieve this balance is to strengthen your relationship with the Quran. Why? Brothers and sisters, think about what happens as a result of someone who is so far off to the side of dunya, right? Like, if someone were to be so far off, how would they even know that they're just totally consumed by this world? The biggest sign is how often and how long you can remember Allah. Right? The remembrance of Allah is by far one of the strongest indicators for where you stand in terms of this balance, right? Or that rope that we talked about. And because remember, the challenge for us is that we are far off into the side of dunya. And so as a result, we don't remember Allah as much as we should, right? So now the question is, what can we do to increase the remembrance of Allah? Well, the greatest form of dhikr is the Quran. Of course, the other forms of dhikr, the smaller ones, are more effective. And I encourage you to do those as well. But the focus here is strengthening your relationship with the Quran. And notice, I'm emphasizing this idea of strengthening your relationship. And that's because we all have, unique relationships with the Quran. Some of us here, mashallah, are very proficient and understand Arabic very well. And some of us might not be able to read it, subhanAllah. But that's okay, right? Because the point here is you want to just increase the amount of time you spend with the Quran, right? If we treat the Quran the same way we treat Salah, where it's a non-negotiable, right? If we set a time and a duration that, look, on this day, for this amount of minutes, I'm going to spend some time with the Quran, then it'll become a part of our lifestyle. And so whatever you decide to do, when you think about the things to establish balance, right, you want to go after something that's sustainable. So this is why strengthening your relationship with the Quran in whatever form that suits you, right? Maybe for some of us, it's just 10 minutes after Maghrib, where you spend some time, 10 minutes just reciting, right? Or maybe you just reflect. Maybe you just pick one ayah, that's your ayah for the day. You spend that time reflecting on that ayah, right? There's another hadith where Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that take up good deeds only as much as you are able. For the best deeds are those done regularly, even if they are few. And so the takeaway here is consistency, right? Because if we're struggling with, making this balance between deen and dunya, then we have to ask ourselves, how can we incorporate more deen into a life where we're already so busy with dunya, right? And one of the answers is to add small forms of ibadah, right? But to focus on the consistency behind whatever that ibadah is. And so far we've mentioned 3 ways, right, to help achieve this balance between deen and dunya, right? The first was to have, the right mindset, right? Remind yourself that you are a traveler on a journey towards a much greater destination. Then number 2, we talked about prioritizing salah, right? That you should make your day revolve around the times of prayer. And then number 3, the one we just mentioned, was to strengthen your relationship with the Quran. Again, something simple. 1 ayah a day, 1 page a day. Just do something, right? Something where you interact with the Quran, but make sure you're able to do it in a consistent and regular way. Now, the 4th thing, and this will be the last thing I mention, the 4th thing is the most powerful, but at the same time, probably the most difficult in terms of using it to establish the balance between deen and dunya. Brothers and sisters, if we're asking ourselves, right, how we can get this balance, then we are by default also acknowledging the fact that there is an imbalance in the first place, right? And that if we go back to this tug of war analogy, right, where here's the rope, on one side we have deen, and on this side we have dunya, and then there's us here in the middle, right? And the side of dunya seems to be pulling stronger than the side of deen. And now we've already established that there's a couple of things we can add to this side of deen to help generate more pull towards that side, right? For example, the salah and Quran, right? You can think of them as like the extra tools that help promote or encourage more balance, more pull. But what if we could stop thinking about deen and dunya as 2 isolated sides that are, opposing one another, right? What if, for example, we had deen on one side, and on the other side we also had deen, right? Then that would eliminate the need to pursue so much balance between the two, because both sides are deen. And so that's the key, right? Is to turn your worldly obligations into acts of ibadah. I'll say it again. The 4th way to have this balance between deen and dunya is to convert your worldly obligations into acts of ibadah. Now the $1 million question is, how do we do this? How can we do such a thing? And the answer is intention, 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 intention. Intention is everything, right? The first hadith of Imam an-Nawawi's 40 hadith is when our Prophet ﷺ says, the actions are judged by their intentions, right? And when we think of it this way, we realize that, subhanAllah, our entire life can be one big form of worship. Everything we do, right? Whether it's work, eating, even sleeping, right? It can all count as ibadah if we have a sincere and honest intention. An intention that we're doing it for the sake of pleasing Allah, right? But see, that's the challenging part, is having such a sincere and honest intention. You might be able to convince yourself, or maybe those around you, that you are doing a certain deed for the pleasure of Allah. But Allah knows what's in the depths of our hearts, brothers and sisters. And we cannot fool Allah. So if, let's say you want to go to work, and you say, I'm going to work because I want to please Allah. But in reality, like most of us probably go to work, why? Because we need a paycheck, right? Then this work that you've done, or at least on that particular day, unfortunately won't count or be accepted as ibadah. And so when we say that the most effective way to balance deen and dunya is to essentially make dunya into deen, what we're also saying is that we need to learn how to develop ikhlas, which is sincerity, right? And it's not easy. Wallahi, it's not easy. But if you can really get yourself to make yourself feel like you're doing something solely for the sake of Allah, and then you can carry that approach for everything you do, then subhanAllah, you really are optimizing the time you have in this world. And we ask Allah to instill within us this ikhlas, right? And to accept every good deed as a form of ibadah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه غفور رحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Brothers and sisters, the topic of my khutbah today was on balancing deen and dunya, right? We all understand that we live busy lives, and much of what keeps us busy are things that we have to do, right? They are things that we're obligated, and some of us might feel like we don't have a choice, right? We can't not work, we can't, not go to school or look after our families. And so the question is, how do we manage these worldly obligations with the obligations of Islam? And so the first step was to have the right mindset, right? So that we have our priorities in order. Because this is really the first place to start, right? When we understand that our life in this world is temporary, we'll come to the conclusion that the obligations of Islam will always trump the obligations of this world. But what are those obligations, right? What are the deen obligations? Well, this is where we talked about in step 2, was to set non-negotiables, and we focused on salah, right? And accept the fact that salah is the daily requirement from Allah that we can't ever negotiate. There is no, I'll do salah later, or any compromise when it comes to salah, right? But then how do we integrate that within our own busy worldly lives? And the key is to, again, build your day around the times of salah. This is the way you give salah priority. And then the third point we mentioned was that the consequence of being so, sucked into this dunya is that we will ultimately forget Allah, right? But at the same time, the greatest form of remembering Allah is to engage with the Quran. Now, you decide what that engagement looks like, right? But more than anything, the takeaway point is that you want to go after consistency. However it is you choose to engage with the Quran is up to you, but make sure it's something that is sustainable, something that you can do on a regular basis. And then the fourth and final point that I mentioned was to turn your worldly obligations into acts of ibadah, right? Try not to have such an isolated view on these two things, right? And learn to develop the ikhlas that I mentioned here so that you can make everything you do in this world a form of ibadah. Now, the one thing I didn't go too far into detail about is that brothers and sisters, we're all on different levels in terms of our spirituality and our connection to Allah. And so when you take these 4 points and you try to apply them as you balance deen and dunya, understand that you have to and you should tailor them according to what fits you. Right? I kind of mentioned this when I made the point of strengthening your relationship with the Quran. Because some of us, again, we might not be able to read. Some of us might be very proficient. But the point is you do something. Right? Because when it comes to balance and doing acts of ibadah, the strongest thing that we can do is to do small things that are consistent. To focus on things that are sustainable. Right? And this means that ultimately, you are committing yourself to a lifestyle. Right? Notice that if you were to really implement all of these steps, right, they wouldn't last for a few days or a week. Right? These are not temporary things that you do now and you let go of later. No, brothers, this is a lifestyle that you're choosing to live. And this is why having the right mindset in the beginning is the foundation for it all. Remember this. وَبَارِكَ عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَعَلَى آلِ مُحَمَّدٍ كَمَا بَارَكْتَ عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَعَلَى آلِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ إِنَّكَ حَمِيدٌ مَجِيدٌ رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا وَهَبْ لَنَا مِن لَّدُنكَ رَحْمَةً إِنَّكَ أَنتَ الْوَهَّابُ رَبَّنَا لَا تُؤَاخِذْنَا إِن نَّسِينَا أَوْ أَخْطَأْنَا رَبَّنَا وَلَا تَحْمِلْ عَلَيْنَا إِصْرًا كَمَا حَمَلْتَهُ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِنَا رَبَّنَا وَلَا تُحَمِّلْنَا مَا لَا طَاقَةَ لَنَا بِهِ.
Phones off. Our August newsletter and the press schedule is out. Having our 16th annual convention at IONA Banquet Hall tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. And there are these cards available by each door in the memory of Dr. Isar Ahmed. Please register or call to register if you want to attend, because we need to make sure we don't have too many people here for the convention, because we'll also be serving dinner. So you must register. You must be there by 5 o'clock. So Jazakallah khair. And also, of course, there's an Umrah trip at the end of the